Hello everyone, welcome back. One of your classmates had asked for form submission lecture, so today I'm here with a lecture on form submission. Without further delay, let's dive into this topic. Almost everyone who had just started web development or is just trying out web development for the first time will fall into a problem like how to make client communicate to the server. Most of the times we might need to send data from the client to the server side or the backend, especially in terms of forms and other where user enters data and we need to store it in the database. It becomes a very big necessity. So for that, the answer is XML HTTP request. I'm explaining this module is in JavaScript, ES6 JavaScript. So for each front end technology, the module name might be different, but the procedure is the same. The only way that you can make the client side communicate with the backend is through by making a HTTP request. So let me explain this JavaScript module to you guys right now and show you how to use this. So XML HTTP request is the module that helps you to communicate with server from your client. XML HTTP request is used in Ajax programming. So in Ajax programming, everything happens asynchronously. That is, the execution does not get stopped or blocked. The request will be sent, but the next lines or the further execution will continue, and the data will come in the meantime. So everything happens in the background. Nothing is stopped, or it is not synchronous. So the role of XML HTTP request is it enables or it allows us to update the page asynchronously. So nowadays, like in previous days, it was synchronous operation was okay. Now even in for normal operation, JavaScript has disabled using synchronous operation because of the impact it has on the user experience. So it is always um, it is a necessity now to do everything asynchronously. We need to talk. There are a number of methods that helps us to make a request to the server or whatever endpoint that you are going to make a request to. The first one is open. Open allows us to initialize a request, and then set request header is used to set the value of the HTTP request header. That is, it sets the type of data that you're going to send in the request if it's a post request. And then send method is used to finally send the request. Uh, these are not all the methods. I have just listed the three methods that definitely need to be there, but there are some more methods that might be useful in some cases. You can just take a look at XML HTTP request documentation if you are interested. But these three methods are enough for you to get started and get going forward. And there are a number of events that you have to get um, get accustomed to. They are like on load, on error, and on ready state change. So when you send a request, you might have to do some actions, or you might have to alert something when something happens. So these three are the functions that helps us to map event handler when an event occurs. Onload is helps us to map an event handler when the request is complete successfully. On error helps us to map a event handler that has to be executed when the request fails. And on ready state change, so ready state is a property of a HTTP request. So there are values from 0 to 1, 0 to 4, sorry. So each value has a different meaning. Like 0 means not yet open, the request is not yet open. 4 means it's done, like that. So if you want to do some action on each ready state change, like whenever it becomes from 0 to 2 or ready, like that, then you can use on ready state change and map an handler to it, so that whenever the ready state changes, it will the function will get executed. So these are the things that you definitely need to know to start making HTTP request to your backend. So I'm going to explain this with a simple example. So first we have a form. We have a form with fields like first name, last name, email address, password, and a submit button. And I have used the on submit attribute of form, and I have mapped it to a function inside the JavaScript, my function, and named my function, and the method how I'm going to send the form values is going to be post, not get, because post is always better. It is not safe to send the form parameters through through a URL or through query parameters. So it's always better to use post. So I have used post here. So on submit, my function will get triggered. My function, which is inside the JavaScript file, will get called. So let's go to that function, my function. So first we are getting the form by using document.getElement by ID. I think I named it my form. So I'm getting it here, my form, by getting it by ID. And then form data is another useful class of in a JavaScript ES6. So using form data, you can just get the values of form, and then you can initialize the form data object, and it'll create a form object, and it'll store inside any variable that you assign to. And then I'm creating an object. This is to create a JSON object, and form data will be like an array, so you have to iterate over it. So I'm using for each, and then I'm storing all the values. This is an arrow function, and I'm storing all the values inside the object or JSON object. I'm creating a JSON object, and then I'm using JSON.stringify to so that it will be a suitable form to send via request in the request. So I am using that function, and I'm transforming it in the right form, and then I'm storing it in JSON. It is JSON. I always advise you guys to use to send the data in JSON format, because it is the most friendly format right now when you're especially when you're using a backend like Node.js, uh, which understands JSON very well. So I have converted into a JSON object. From here it was a form object, but sending a form object is not desirable, so I just send it as JSON so that it is very easy in the backend for you to access its properties. So next comes here the main thing. I am just initializing a new instance of XML HTTP request, and then I'm creating the object HTTP request, and then I'm mapping onload. I think I explained you. I think I explained 3 events to you. One of the useful one is onload. Onload means when the request completes successfully, you have to call this method, which is alert contents. So I am just passing that into by reference into this um, to this event, and then I'm going to open a HTTP request. I'm giving the method as post. I'm going to send it as post to the backend, and I am giving the backend endpoint where I'm going to send the data to. So since I'm using Node.js by default hosts the server in localhost and port 3000, and I'm accessing the a specific endpoint called users. So I have design my backend application so that I, this endpoint handles the user data. So true is like as I told, whether you want the request to be asynchronous or synchronous. So it is always good to use true. Even if you don't use true, it is by default true only, because even the browsers like Google Chrome doesn't allow you to use synchronous things, because it really affects the user experience. Like if you don't get a request back, it will be just waiting like that, so you don't need to stop execution like that. And then we have to set the request header. In request header, I will set the content type as application/JSON. Since I am using a JSON, I am sending a JSON object in the request. And then I am just the last one is sending the sending the parameter by encoding it. So there are like three. So as I told, there are three methods that are really useful, and one event, onload event, if you want to handle the case based on that. And then open. Open is the method to open the request. Set request address, like after you have to set the type of data that you are sending in the request, and then the send actually sends the request. So here we have mapped alert contents function to onload event. So onload means when the request gets completed successfully, we have to go to onload. When it gets successfully, it will come here, and then it will check whether if the status is 200. 200 means if it is success. Then I will, if the status is 200, and I will just pass the JSON from the string that I'm getting, and then I will. I'm just giving a simple example like alert. You can do whatever you can do based on based on your application. Or else, if the status is not 200, then we have to alert that there was a problem with the request. The request was not successful. We have to make the user know of the request. And then let's go to the backend. So we have sent a request to localhost 3000/users. So this is the place where it will reach if you send a request to that endpoint. So I think you guys are like those who are using Node.js backend might know like the basics of Node.js. App.js is the main file, and inside that app.js I have link to the user's endpoint. I have used to the user's endpoint. I have linked this router, this route. Okay, so here we have to define router dot post. If someone is making a post request to this users module, then what? Sorry, then uh, then what we have to do? We have to give here. So first we are getting the data. Requests, rest, and next are like very common parameters that are used in routers. So first we have to get the data that we sent from your client, the JSON data that we passed from the JavaScript. To get that, you just need to use from the request. You have to get the request body, and then since I named it data, I'm just getting in data, and then I'll get the JSON object here. Then you have to type the database part. Since I explained the database part in a database video, I have not entered any code here, but I will again explain it just to make it clear through an application. Yeah. So inside the in this place, you can just call another method and then write another method over here. The method can be like this. You can export it. Here I'm exporting this function to be used to other things. And then for MongoDB, for data to store it in the database. This thing is already covered in the database lecture, but I wanted to cover so that this looks complete. So first we have to import a MongoDB module. After installing the MongoDB module, you have to import it using require MongoDB, and then you have to copy your connection string to your database to your cluster from the MongoDB Atlas, and then you have to create a new instance of Mongo client. Since I have stored it inside Mongo client, the MongoDB driver, I'm just creating a new object of Mongo client by giving the URI, and I'm storing the object in client. Okay, so now I'm going to show this is for a different application. This is not for the application that we are talking about. This is for a different application, and I'm going to show a module which stores data, so that that is very similar to what you guys asked. So we have the MongoDB object inside the client, and I'm giving connect, so that I'll connect to the data, connect to the cluster first. So inside that I have a function, callback function, which I've explained in database, with error object and success object. If success, so we have to give the database name. The database name is roomsdb, and then I have to I'm just getting the database inside an object, and then I'm getting the request.body. So we have sent the username, first name, last name, username, password. So you'll get over if just assume like we are getting that over here. And then what we have to do is we have to get the table where collection is like synonymous with tables in SQL based database. Because you are familiar with SQL, I'm just explaining like that. So in MongoDB you have to use database.collection. Database is object is over here, so database.collection, and then the collection name, and then a callback function for success. One is for error, one is for success. And then it will get that collection, and then in collection I'm just inserting the JSON object. Since MongoDB also supports JSON like data, so I'm just storing it. It's very easy for me, and directly I can store it. Again, and another callback function to see whether it has stored properly or not. If there is an error, then you have to send the response as an error has occurred. If there is no error, then I'm logging it in the console, and then I'm sending the result of storage. So this, I think you guys know how to you guys know about the Node.js thing. So this is not for users. I have just mapped to users router. So users router is roots/users. So this is the thing. So I just wanted to show how this roots was mapped from app.js. But I think you guys will be familiar who are all using Node.js backend. So once we have sent the response from that backend function, which I showed the database one add rooms, then it will come to this. Then it will come. This function will be triggered once the request is complete successfully. And then I'll check whether the status is 200 or something else. If it's 200, then it's a green signal for us. Then we can just parse the data from that. If it is a JSON, you can just parse, and then you can just I'm just alerting it, and you guys can, after storing, you can just print. You can just get an element by ID some div, and you can just print a message that yes, the user has been created. And you can also create another HTTP request to HTTP GET request to another page, so that you have also stored everything, and you have shown the message that the user has created, and then you can redirect it to using another HTTP request over here. It's based on your application, on what you want to do after that. But the procedure to send data from the client to backend is through XML HTTP request. I'm sorry that I couldn't accommodate all the front-end languages, because it's impossible. I am not sure what all front-end languages you guys are using. I just wanted to show the procedure in the normal JavaScript ES6 and use a Node.js backend. And the the procedure will be almost same in all the is almost the same in all the front end languages. You just now have to find the HTTP module in your respective front end languages. So that is the only way that you can communicate with your backend backend service. So this is the way. This is the procedure of how you can send data from your front end and then store it in the backend. Thank you. And if you have any doubts, please feel free to comment. Uh, See you this week. Again, I'll be posting an Angular lecture. Until then, bye. Have a great day. See you.